right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast. Monty and the Pharaoh, seen only here at Indie Music TV in Ronkonkoma, Long Island. And at the board is always Mr. Reliable super producer, Matt. Matt, how are you, bud?
Doing great, as always.
Glad to see you again, brother. Glad to see you again. We can always count on you, Matt, to be here. You know what I mean?
Thank you, thank you.
He gives his generation a good name.
Yeah,
Really?
You kind of do.
Well,
Aren't you proud? You look proud.
I do feel flattered. Yeah.
Well, I gotta tell you, mommy and daddy did good by you, man.
I wonder what kind of cartoons they let him watch back in the day when he was growing up.
Let's not even get
we
into
won't do that.
To the right
Where?
of me is
Of
the
you?
star of the show, Mr. Jimmy Farrow. Jimmy, how are you?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Back once again.
Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too.
First, I want to tell you, last week's show, tribute to Eddie Van Halen.
Okay.
Loved it.
was
If anyone saw the show, you should catch it on all our many networks that we're on. But Jimmy had a candid conversation with studio owner Chris Patty about Eddie Van Halen. And as a fan, listening to two musicians like yourself, Chris, who has top 10 and top 15 blues albums, and you being part of Wisteria Hall and many other bands, that to listen to you guys conversate about you like that word, huh?
Yeah, fancy schmancy.
About music.
Yeah.
Was pretty impressive.
Yeah, well, Chris has obviously got a very fine mind for music, and I dabble in all sorts of different forms of music, as you know. It started with classical piano, and you know, you were there too. I loved a lot of your input too, man. That was a great conversation.
Well,
it really was. That was a quick 30 minutes. Let's put it that way. When I listened to it back, because you know we always review our stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so I really did enjoy that. That was an excellent job by Chris and you, and excellent session there, and tribute to the great Eddie Van Halen. By the way, I know this is going to sound a little weird, but I got to mention this. Eddie's death has affected me in so many different ways. We could spend a whole show talking about that, honestly, because we grew up with, big fans of the man during his prime. You know how Eddie mentioned that he believes that he got the cancer on his tongue from putting the metallic picks in his mouth? Sure. This is going to sound really ridiculous, but I got to share this. A lot of my life, when I'm going to the front door, when I've had like too many things in my hands, I'll always put the keys in my mouth. And get before you get to that front door, you ever have to, find somewhere to hold the keys? So for some stupid reason with me, I would usually put them in my mouth for a second if I got my hands full to get to the front door. Dude, I ain't doing that no more.
Right.
They're metallic, aren't they? I'm just saying,
Stop.
just emotionally, all the obvious things about his passing, but this is just a little quirky thing that I ain't doing that no more, Still smoking cigarettes, though, so how much have I really learned?
Are we good with sound, guys? Okay.
You know?
There's a fan out there that says, "Where's the sound?"
Are we out there?
Well, I'm listening to what you're saying, bro.
I'm just saying, though. It's just a little personal thing that I used to do. My hands will fall.
I have not recovered.
No.
I keep seeing my mortality in front of me now. This one hurt bad.
Mm-hmm.
And look, we're going to get to our special guest shortly, but I have a few questions for you because I was thinking about this, right?
Questions? I get worried when you have questions, but go on. Go on.
I started thinking, right, we're in this pro wrestling broadcast business, and by the way, I want to thank all the fans of the show who are really starting to make the show move now. The comments you guys have been giving us, and the views and the props, we want to say thank you. We're humbled by each and every one of you.
Thank you to the ones who have been there for the ride from the beginning, because we do know who you are, and thank you to the new folks who've come on, because all that does is get us even more motivated to give you more good stuff.
Well said, as always, sir.
Thank you, sir. Sir.
So
how proper of us. Go on. What do you got?
In this industry, right, wrestling's made of good and bad, right? That is the story, right? The
good
guy versus the bad guy.
Isn't life in general, but yes, I totally agree.
So that's what I was thinking. I was thinking, we've been in this broadcasting thing, and you've been in the band stuff, and I was thinking, we've met many people on this ride and this journey, many who I would probably consider bad people.
Interesting.
Even evil people.
I have to think about that. Okay.
But here's my question to you. I was thinking to myself.
You feel that way.
Self.
Okay. Self? Dear self.
We think we're good guys. But maybe we're the evil guys, and they're the good guys. So my question to you is, if someone is truly evil, you can talk about your friend Marilyn, not Marilyn Manson.
Charlie? My friend.
Do you think that
How is Charlie my friend?
Well,
because I've always found him an interesting subject, but it's pretty obvious which side of the fence he was on.
But here's my point.
What are you saying?
My point.
Go
does
on.
Charlie Manson in
Yeah.
his world think that he's the good guy? So here I was thinking to myself,
boy, we could be here for hours.
We've made a substantial amount of enemies
Yeah.
in this short ride.
Okay, interesting. Okay.
All right.
I'd have to think
but
about that.
I always think we're on the good side of everything.
Yeah.
But are we on the bad side? And maybe we're looking wrong. What are your thoughts on that?
What
I was
kind
like,
of
are
crazy-
we really good guys?
Okay, here's where I don't lose too much sleep over whether we are good guys or bad guys. And you ask a very, very interesting question, so you're going to get a very, very interesting answer. All right? First of all, my opinion on most of the wrestlers we've met and most of the people that have come through these doors are good. I think that most of them have been good people.
Fair.
Sure, there's a business involved.
Fair enough.
Sure there is. But in general, I think it's fair to say 8 out of 10 wrestlers we've had, and we've had dozens and dozens now.
Well, not just the
you know,
wrestlers, dude.
They're good
We
people.
were at other studios. We met some
Yes.
bad people.
Yes,
we've
we
met
did.
other co-hosts of other shows.
We've come across some real, and we've gone over this. We know for a fact that there's a bunch that we didn't get along with. Are they evil? Okay, here's where I go with all of this. Usually, you're judged at the end of the day by your works. It's what you produce. It's what you do. Okay. It's also how you treat people. All right.
Right.
The bottom line to me is I look at good and evil much differently because, and this is going to sound strange for someone who doesn't seem to be on too much coming from this kind of point of view I'm about to express.
Go ahead.
The most society is built, whether they want to admit it or not, historically for the last for thousands and thousands of years, societies and backgrounds, no matter where they come from, are built off religious beliefs. In general, this is a fact. Okay, whether you like it or not, this is historical facts. Religion usually is the belief system that keeps people from absolutely mutilating each other, and oddly enough, in a lot of these religious texts, some of the greatest examples of who we're supposed to look up to are forced at times to face evil and do some very, very what would be termed as evil things.
Okay.
I always look back on when Moses killed the Egyptian soldier because he witnessed them harming the Jews. So when I see that some of the greatest examples of good sometimes are forced, that's a key word, folks, forced to defend what they feel is right, then, I don't worry too much about, after all, this is just pro wrestling.
Sure.
So I don't really worry too much about what kind of man I am or what kind of man you are in the eyes of people who we don't always, go exactly with. Because a lot of these people that we didn't go exactly with, you've always been above board. So I have no issues with the course we've taken, and I don't lose any sleep over how we're thought of.
Okay.
Let me put it that way,
So, in a final result is, in your world,
Yeah.
we're good.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I don't see us looking to make anybody's life miserable.
Very good.
I
I would like to thank the band that sings the theme song for Monty and the Pharaoh, our own Jimmy Farrell, along with his partner Bart Griggs, a part of the band Wisteria Hall. Wisteria Hall sings such great songs as our theme song, Riding High. Also, In My Dreams, This Life, which is a favorite of mine, Not Far Behind, Here Comes the Rain. You can find their music on Spotify, iTunes, and Reverb Nation.
Now, one thing, though, before we, continue with the plugs. What's your take on it? You got me standing on the ledge. I gave my opinion on it. Do you think we're good or evil? I mean, for you to even come up with this question, I'm
my
like,
take
what?
on it is,
Oh, man.
my take on it is this. We do this as a side gig.
Right.
Again, quick history on the show. Started on a very small show. It got popular. We ended up growing, and now we're in this wonderful studio, and things seem to be heading along. Along the ride, okay, now you got my regular life, which is hard enough already, but you got this.
Right.
Along the ride, right, we just want to entertain people, and
Right.
we like the feedback of our fans, and we like the feedback of the people who are watching. We're thanking everybody who's watching now. And we've met a few people who have met us. They've interviewed on our show, and we've found some people who have stabbed us in the back.
Oh,
along
God.
the way.
The user list is exhausting.
Absolutely.
There have been a ton of
So-
that. But as far as the good and evil thing, well, I can tell you for 1,000% for sure, the ones who attempted to use the crap out of us, hey, joke's on them.
Well,
Whatever.
as a guy who
Yeah.
competed in
Good and evil. Yeah.
as a guy who competed
Whatever.
in athletics when he was younger, and people get it out there, right? I'm 53 years old. I can't compete in athletics anymore, but there is a thing of competing.
Right.
So, to your point, I will bury other shows.
Yeah.
I will find a way.
Yeah.
Okay,
I have no issue
I've
with you
realized
doing that
shortly
either.
that a lot of
None.
a lot of shows out there are not my friends.
Right.
We've had producers at other studios that weren't our friend, even though we did a lot for them. So I've learned my lesson along the way. And if you ask a person on the outside what I do, and when we talk about, here's my point, everybody, is that I'm just not other shows' friends. I'm not going to put them over. I'm not going to give them a rub. They asked to come on our show. I'm not going to do it because they didn't do it along our
Right.
ride, or
Right.
when they saw that we were
Right.
actually breaking through a wall instead of helping us.
Right.
They buried us.
Right.
So I've always been trying to help
Right.
people
Right.
throughout this whole thing.
Right.
People needed to plug. They're going on an interview. They're doing this. We were there for them. And in the end, when they gained some popularity, there was a problem.
Right. Right.
Anyway, I want to thank Biggie 21. Yeah, bro, this is a little bit deep, my friend. It is a little bit deep.
Into the deep end of the pew.
That being said, on the outside, if you ask, maybe in some certain ways, our practices aren't on the good side of things.
This is a manipulative business. And I have seen some incredible manipulation towards us in the past. And I think that we have found ways to handle that
Right.
now. You know, it's the longer you do something, the more you realize the patterns.
Well, before we get to our guests, I just want to say I want to get it confused. We are humbled to be in this studio. We are humbled to
Yes.
have the wrestlers that come in this
Yes.
facility. We are
And again,
humbled to
8
have-
out of 10, 9 out of 10 wrestlers we have in are great. Okay.
I'm humbled to have the
The
fans
studio
who
we're at now
comment,
is fantastic.
the fans who comment,
You know?
that watch our shows.
Right.
And when I say fans, you're not really the fans. You're part of the family.
Right.
So it shouldn't be
Right.
fans. It should be fans.
Right.
So
And to be
again,
fair, we've had great memories in the past and the other places too.
absolutely.
You know, so it is what it is, you know. Good and evil, wouldn't waste my time worrying too much. I'll tell you that.
Anyway, Monty Nefaro can be seen on YouTube, Facebook Live, the Monty Nefaro page, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Anchor, Twitch TV, Monty Nefaro page, RTF Sports Network. That's a new up-and-coming streaming sports network, 24-hour sports all day. We are their anchor show. We play on Thursdays from 8 till 9 p.m., I believe.
Fair enough.
You can catch us on cable television on channel 115 every Tuesday from 7 p.m. to 7:30. So that's our regular Thursday show, but compressed to a bullet point. You could also catch that show again on Friday at 2:30 in the morning. That's a few hours from now. And then on Saturday, that Friday is on channel 20, right?
Yeah.
And then Saturday, channel 115, 6
We're
a.m.
all
to
over the
6:30.
place. Oh, my
We
God.
are. And when we're talking about good versus evil, we'll be right back with our special guest, Angie Perides, daughter of WWE and AWA great Adrian Adonis, who we might find out some people might have felt that he might have been a little evil.
We love the adorable one. Back with Angie.
You need a body shop? You need engine repair? Auto Excellence, Collision Specialists, 631-261-6420. That's 631-261-6420. Auto Excellence.
That's right, folks. Canine Corral for all your dog daycare and overnight care. Call 631-549-1544. That's 631-549-1544.
Jimmy, I gotta take a dump.
What?
No, I mean I need a dumpster.
Well, for all those needs, you need to call Big V Dumpster Rental, Long Island, New York, 631-900-DUMP.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast. Monty and Afaro, seen every Thursday, produced out of Indie Music TV in Ronkonkoma, New York. And we want to welcome our special guest, our honor, Angie. Welcome to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast. You got her?
Yeah.
I don't hear her.
She's not speaking.
Can she hear us? Angie, can you hear us?
Is that better?
There you go. There she is. Hey, Angie, how are
there
you?
We go. I'm well. How are you guys?
All right. Thank you for joining us.
Very good.
Sorry we got a little long-winded there, but
That's okay.
So it's how it goes. So how you doing through this COVID era, Angie? How's everything with the COVID? How's your family?
My family's good. I am just sick of COVID. I see about 50 patients a day, and about 50 of those are COVID.
Oh, my God. So tell us, are you a nurse?
I'm a nurse practitioner,
So tell us a
and
little
I'm
bit
in
about
urgent care, and
what are you encountering out there?
they're coming in for testing. We've tested at our facility over 2,200 have been positive. Definitely numbers inflated. I say they'll all be over with at the end, November 6th,
That's
after
funny.
election.
I think
Interesting.
we're on the same board with that
Very
for sure.
interesting. Is it at the point?
Yes,
like
it's
the flu?
It's insane.
Would you say it's at the point like the flu and the overreaction of the media is out of control? Is that what you're getting at, or
Yes, it's all for the money.
interesting?
It is all for the money. We're supposed to be
Interesting.
tested for COVID once a week, and I just got my insurance bill, and they charged my insurance $1,100 for COVID.
Oh, my God.
Interesting.
One test, one nasal swab.
Wow.
So what are we trying to say here? That COVID isn't what they claim it to be, and they're just making you, like, push up the numbers for insurance purposes?
I definitely for the money, but there is, now don't get me wrong, there is some people that COVID is, I had one patient, he didn't have any comorbidities. He was 40 years old, did not smoke, and he ended up being on a vent for a little bit and had the plasma transfer. Other than that, I had a pregnant lady, all she had was a headache. It's all about the money, definitely.
Do you
Definitely.
think that,
And the numbers are inflated because they'll come back in to get another test because their work needs it, or they just want that negative result. And if they're positive again because they came back too soon, those numbers aren't taken into account. They're as another COVID. They just chalk that one up on the number board. So yes, it's here, but also I believe it's been taken way out of context.
how do you feel about the enforcement of wearing masks, and was the president right or wrong to get criticism from folks about the fact that he stayed strong and didn't wear the mask to show people that he didn't, want panic or anything? Do you think that it's,
I hardly wear a mask because it is harder to breathe in it. And the studies show that if you're wearing a mask, even an N95, within 15 minutes of being around somebody that's COVID positive, it's not going to help you not get COVID. I have not been tested positive for COVID. I've seen an increase in ear infections. I've seen it increase. There's not a study done saying there's a correlation, but the masks are a joke. If they wanted the mask, it could go through oral mucosa membranes, then why aren't we required to wear face shields or goggles for eyes?
Fair enough.
Look what they said about Hep C. Oh, it only lives on the counter for three days. Now look at it, it's 30 days. So viruses change all the time. Like I said, I hardly ever wear a mask.
What would your opinion be if the government, when a vaccine is released, if the government forces everybody to take one? How would you feel about, what would your stance be on that?
I would say no. I have 3 daughters, and HPV, I didn't get them vaccinated against that. It's way too new. I would not want it. If they mandate one, that's I would consider that assault because performing something you don't want done on you.
Interesting.
Would you think that an interview that we're going to discuss you and your father would turn into a COVID conversation?
No, I did not.
All right, so we're going to hit you with some wrestling questions. Are you ready?
It is interesting, though.
I'm ready.
I got to ask you, Angie, being the son of a Jewish accountant, I can't exactly relate to what it is like being the daughter of somebody as famous as the adorable one, Adrian Adonis, who we did adore. What is it like being the daughter of somebody of such noted repute?
Okay, so this might be a little strange. So he passed away when I was 8. My sister was 2. We didn't talk about him after that. My mother would go to her room and cry. We just did not. If we brought him up, she, very short answers and just go to her room. Of course, we kept in contact with our Grandma and Grandpa Frankie in New York. But we just didn't really talk about it. Then she remarried 4 years later. Great guy. He just recently passed in 2018. And that's when I kind of started looking into my dad. So it's looking at this, I was just like, I was telling my husband the other night, I'm like, wow, guess I didn't realize that he's right up there with all of these big name people. Piper, Hogan, all these people that, everyday common names.
How were you
with
able
wrestling.
How were you able to, as a child, handle emotionally the fact that your father was not being brought up after the separation from the family? How were you able to channel that internally and emotionally?
Really hard. I know that if certain things bother me now, you don't talk about them, which can be not as healthy for people. I know that when we would go to visit, because we lived in Southern California and then we moved away to Northern California and then Nevada and various other places. When we'd go back to visit, parents would say, "Oh, you look just like your dad," or to my sister, "You look just like your father." I know I would just kind of look away because what do you say?
Do you have strong
But my mom always
memories?
said, that was her best friend. That was, they did tons, they always had fun. They got along great. I only remember one argument that they got into. And I really know remember what it was about, but I remember just one argument.
What was the dynamic like in the household before he had left? You did have 8 years with him, so I'm asking how much do you remember before he left?
I remember various things. I know that we would have to have Christmas a week early because during Christmas they're wrestling, they're on the road. I remember that, I remember going to the gym with them a couple times. I remember just fun. We would have barbecues and out by the pool and various family members, all of my mom's family's in Bakersfield. And so that's why we lived there. And all family there all the time, just fun. Pets, he would buy us all kind of pets. And I remember my mom getting so pissed off, if I can say that, because she would be the one, left holding the bag when we'd have them. Rabbits that, he would bought my sister and I rabbits and they bred. Dogs, lizards that my mom's scared to death of lizards, so he bought us this huge iguana or these little itty bitty green lizards, and he'd hold her down and he'd yell at me or yell for me to come in there, and I would get the lizards and we'd put them on my mom and my mom would be screaming and she'd be so mad, but they would be laughing, so he was.
Yeah, but then she had to clean up all the poop.
Well, yeah, that's the whole thing. I was actually supposed to go with him on that trip, but he had just bought me a little dash hound, and I knew my mom would get rid of it, and so that was my excuse to stay home. And she, "Oh no, I won't get rid of it." So I didn't go with him, which is a good thing, or the turn of events could have been way different.
Well,
but
it turned out to be a blessing. Angie, you mentioned about your mom that after your father passed away that she pretty much didn't want to talk about him. Did that strain your relationship with your mother, and how is your relationship with your mother?
No, we were very, very close. Well, I would say her and my sister are closer. I was closer with my stepdad, who we call Dad. They were married when I was 11 and my sister was 5, and up until this time, and treated us just like his own children. I was closer with him. I haven't talked to my mom in over a year. There was a big falling out, and so I haven't talked to her in over a year. So that's just the way some things go, and I don't talk to my sister either. But that didn't really have anything to do with us not talking about that. As when we were younger, that was something totally different. So
Now, did your stepfather talk about your father at all? I mean, did they try to share
no,
anything?
no. The only thing that for my stepfather was Fox News and football. He played football for the Falcons when they were first an expansion team.
Wow.
So that is all we ever watched was football and Fox News.
It sounds to me like your father was a fun father. Were you joyful when you got to see him? Because obviously he wasn't around all the time. When he came home, was it like, oh yes, Dad's home? What did he bring me?
Yes, and it was fun time. I remember going to staying in one of the motels, and I don't remember which one it was, of course, but we were in a motel, and he would, put makeup all over my face, and then tell me to hide in the closet and jump out at the guy who came to bring room service, or he would, oh my gosh, he would always do fun things, and I mean, just we would go out. I just remember going out to eat. I remember going to the movies with him. Uh, would walk me to the bus stop. He just out in the pool playing, all kinds of. I mean, I remember him always a prankster. I remember him. My mom had a lamp, and it was, I guess, pretty cool for the '80s. I don't know where you would even get one now, but it was a black. It was just all black, and it was a lady, and then she was standing on all fours, and then her foot was holding up the ball of the lamp. He would take like fake moss and he would glue it as pubic hair. My mom would get so mad and she'd be cussing him out. And I just remember laughing so hard. And he would do crazy, I mean, things like that all the time. And she was like, knock it off. Then there was a story that I just remembered the other day. I was like, this is insane. He had an Oscar fish. And so it ate goldfish.
Sure.
So my aunt had this boyfriend that he was, I mean, I don't know, kind of, I just say like it, not all there, but of
Okay.
course I think he was on drugs at the same time, like bad drugs. And so he would come over and he asked if he could clean out the garage for some money. And my mom goes, yeah, okay. And then my dad, don't you be stealing anything. His name was JR. Don't be stealing anything, JR. And JR, oh, I'm not. Well, Dad had all these wines and various things from Japan. And there was snakes and like berries and nuts in the bottom of them. And JR goes, I want to try one. And my dad goes, oh, it's too strong for
Oh,
you. He goes and puts a fish, one of the goldfish, in with the wine and then gives it to him. He's like, well, there's a fish in here. My dad goes, no, there's not. You're already messed up. You can't have it. You can't have this. Take it away from him. The guy, no, I swear there's a fish in here. And my dad, I don't see a fish. I think you're just drunk already. So that was, I mean, I just remember that was hilarious because I was like, what? This guy's drinking this wine and looking, there's a fish in here. No, there's not. You're crazy. You're already drunk. Are you on drugs? Always doing something.
you had previously mentioned that you remember only one time there, even hearing the sound of a raised voice. So, how was the relationship between your parents growing up for the 8 years?
I mean, we would, when he was home, we did all kinds of things together. I mean, and then even when he was wrestling, I remember going to Disneyland when he wrestled in Anaheim, and I remember that was my first time I had seen him wrestling because I didn't watch it. They didn't let me watch it. I remember a cousin telling me that he was traveling with a bunch of women, and I was like, no. And I'm thinking, she's trying to say my dad has a girlfriend. And I remember telling my mom that. My mom goes, oh, they're just crazy. Don't pay any attention. And then I see later on, these clips of when he was very flamboyant and these females were doing his hair and his nails and stuff. And I go, oh, that must be what she was talking about. So it was,
Go ahead.
oh no, they just didn't, let me, I just didn't watch it.
Well, little did you realize when he was practicing the makeup with you, he was going to use some himself.
Very
He
funny.
was-
Right.
you had mentioned that he used to put makeup on you. He's probably practicing to put some on himself with those awesome gimmicks he had. What was it like
Oh
in
my
school?
gosh.
What was it like in school? Did anybody ever walk up to you and go, like let's say when you got into junior high and stuff, anybody go, "Do you realize who your father is? He rules." Did you ever have anything like that
No,
going on? Or
no, because we just didn't
Wow.
didn't talk about it then, and so we were at junior high. I was in
Nobody knew.
Northern California in Cedarville, Alturas area,
Okay.
and
Okay.
they, my parents, well, my mom and my stepdad, they had ranches, and so they just assumed it was, my mom and my dad, and we were just in ranching, so they didn't
So
they
you
didn't
never
really know, and
you never mentioned it to any of your friends growing up in school. Someone usually
we just
we're
didn't
gonna-
talk just
Interesting.
just
Okay.
didn't really, well, I guess I went to high school in, what was it, my sophomore, junior, senior year in Winnemucca, Nevada. And that's where I met my husband. And we were back there, it was about 98. We were back there for I don't remember what it was. And we were at one of my husband's friend's house. And there was another guy that came over and he was like, "Oh my God, are you serious?" And this guy comes running out and says, "Is that really your dad?" And he was flipping out. "Yeah, why?"
There you go.
"Oh my gosh, why didn't you tell me? We're going to watch some old school wrestling." I was like, "Okay."
Yeah.
So I
Is
didn't
that the
really
first time you
realize
realized?
it.
Is that the first time that you realized, hey, my father might have been really, really loved by a lot of people?
I, ge- I just didn't really, yeah, but I didn't, still, it didn't really register until I want to say 2019 to,
Wow.
I mean,
Really?
2020. And then,
Really?
yeah, and watching all these like clips and seeing him, it's just really crazy. I don't understand, I guess, why he's not in the Hall of Fame because
Ugh.
he's,
Ugh.
Well, that's-
I
Us
don't get
neither.
it.
That's what I was
We grew
going to
up
ask you,
with him. We
Angie, right?
love your
You're on this
father.
road to discovery, right? And
Yeah.
you didn't talk about your dad, and now you're trying to find out stuff. With all this social media, how is it handling, again, me and the Pharaoh, we've always been huge fans of
Yes.
Adrian Adonis.
Grew up
but
watching him.
There,
Yes.
there's a lot of wrestlers out there that weren't such big fans. How does that feel when you hear certain things said about him? Does it bother you? What are your thoughts?
That's got to be frustrating.
well, I mean, example, I knew, and this is really bad, I knew about the weed, the marijuana. I knew about it because you don't forget that smell. When his mother would come from New York, she was a very, very nice lady. I've only heard her say one bad thing about somebody, and that was there's a special place in hell for people like Vince McMahon. And that was
Wow.
the only thing I've ever heard her say negative. She, very nice lady. He hid his marijuana when Grandma Frankie came to town, and he was like, "Oh, you don't need to tell her." And I, of course, being my father's daughter, went and took her and showed her right where his
Oh no!
was about. Yeah, I
Ay.
didn't realize
boy.
about the coke use or the drug use that was so prevalent. I mean, my mom had a golden. I mean, she still has it in her jewelry box. It's like a lady who's naked and it's a Coke spoon, a gold Coke spoon. And I have an aunt that will tell you anything and everything, and she'll tell me about how they were doing Coke for, I think it was my mom's birthday, and it went missing. So she said pretty soon my dad had a gun in a guy's mouth, and the Coke and a bunch of money and everything else this guy stole came about. And I was like, oh my goodness. And then I hear these other stories about him and his partying ways, and I was like, okay, well. But some of the things I've heard him say, Tony Atlas was one, is you was just an asshole, and oops, sorry, we're live, forgot that.
No, you're
the
good on this
A-hole
show.
word.
You can say all sorts of things. You're safe. Go on.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Like,
did she tell you why Tony was an asshole though? Because Tony was on our show,
Yeah, Tony's-
and we mentioned Adrian to him, and
Yeah.
he wasn't very complimentary.
No, and I had seen that on there, and I was like, oh, well, I mean, to each their own. Maybe he said something that was kind of, And then I found the newspaper clip that I haven't found it anywhere else, but it was from a newspaper in Kuwait that Dad had pulled a knife on him and stabbed him in the head. But I don't know if it was just for like a promotional deal or if it was like a real thing.
Right.
Yes, I did. I've not been able to find that here anywhere on social media, so
When he
don't
came,
really know what.
when he came home from time to time, did he ever bring a wrestler home? Did you ever get to meet any of his co-workers? Did he ever bring like a Jesse Ventura or in the early days? And do you remember
Well,
anything?
when when they were tag team partners, they lived in the same apartment complex. So uh, there's pictures of his Jesse Ventura's son and I playing when we were younger.
Okay.
I remember going to Dick Murdoch's wedding.
Hmm.
They did a clip. I remember going there, and I have some. There's a picture of his wife, and I guess she had a daughter with her, or he had a daughter, a stepdaughter. I don't know. There was a young girl there that I remember playing with, but that's where they filmed when they went to New York for Dad's, where he lives, and then they went down to Texas for where Murdoch lives. They did a clip for wrestling, but that was when Murdoch had his wedding. I remember going there. But as for bringing home, um, there were two people that came to the house, and I don't remember who they were. I know that when I know him and Roddy Piper were very close, and then when Roddy Piper came through to California, they went out to dinner, or they went with him. I don't remember meeting him until after the funeral. I met Roddy Piper, and Horton was there, and Bobby Davis used to come by, who was a trainer for him for a while.
Hmm.
But as the other people know, it was kind of like that's his own time. He never watched himself wrestle on TV. I remember asking him. He just said no, he didn't want to watch him. He never watched himself. My mom told me later everything was unscripted.
Interesting.
My mom got rid of that van after the wreck. He had just bought that minivan, and after the wreck, she got rid of that van. But that was the condo that we lived in when she got the phone call.
All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we're going to come back to you and talk about life after your father passes. All right, and we'll be back
Okay.
with daughter of the adorable one, Adrian Adonis, Angie Perides. Am I saying that right, Angie?
Perides.
Got it. Thank you.
Hey, you
Okay.
nailed it. You nailed it. We'll be right back with Angie. Jeff Quest, graphics design, custom vinyl lettering, and all your art and video needs. 516-317-8204. That's for Jeff Quest, graphic design. The Monty and the Pharaoh Show is brought to you by... Because wine is your second favorite four-letter word. California wine, New York attitude. Good fucking wine. Yeah. In the mood for a freshly roasted cup of coffee? www.offthe-railscoffeeroasters.com. All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast. Monte DeFaro seen every Thursday, produced out of Indie Music TV. We have our special guest, Angie Perides. Perides? I said it right. Angie
I'll
Perides.
Yep.
jack it up. I keep jacking
Angie
it up.
Perides.
All
I
right,
keep hearing
Angie.
the Stone song Angie in my head.
I know,
By the way,
right?
which I'm kind of liking right now. But Angie, I got to ask you, after your father passed, have you had any kind of contact with Vince McMahon? How do we get your father into the WWE Hall of Fame? Any thoughts on any of that? And did people come to you after your father passed on? Also, I know these are several questions, but were you approached by anybody from the business afterwards? Have you ever talked to Vince?
No, no, I have not. I don't know him. I know after he had passed, my mother had contacted him because she had seen in a magazine with the action figures or the wrestling dolls, and she said, did Keith ever make one? Did he get one? And Vince told her no. We didn't get around to that yet with him.
Mm-hmm.
She's looking right at it, and there's a picture of my dad right on there.
Mm-hmm.
So she did take Vince to court over that.
What was the end result, please?
There was a settlement of some sort. I don't.
Okay.
She didn't, like I said, she didn't talk
Okay.
about it, but there was.
Gotcha.
but I guess I don't know if he, I don't know how to get him in the Hall of Fame. I had messaged Georgia. She is one of the English Bulldogs' daughter, and she said she got her dad going just with everything on social media, just got his name out there again. She said that's what she did with it. I don't know. Is it all up to Vince? Is it? I have no idea how
I would say
to go about that.
I would say it is up to Vince. I think that's fair, wouldn't you, Mike?
Yeah, I would say
I would think that it's up to. Have you tried to
So
directly
he might not.
Have you tried to directly
He might
contact?
not want to do that,
Okay.
being the way that my dad had left or how they left.
Okay.
So, Angie, back to the original question. Your father passes away. He's got some fairly close friends in the business. None of them came by to check on the family, make sure if you guys are struggling for money or help out.
Piper would call my mother, sent letters. George the Animal Steel's wife sent letters. He sent cards, letters, contacted my mom. Ventura, same with his wife. I have, the letters and everything. We had went to New York for my grandparents' 50th wedding anniversary, and it was at that time that we had dinner, and my mom stayed there and talked to the other Kelly twin, the survivor from the wreck. Orton, she talked to a lot of, I want to say Guerrero. He was one that came to the funeral as well, but she spoke with them, and I just remember her saying that she didn't get a card or a call or anything from Hogan or from Vince. And I mean, I was little, but I remember her saying that quite a bit.
That's got to be hurtful. Can you talk about the wreck from what you've learned about it, what actually happened that night?
So they were driving to a venue, and there were two vehicles. They were blinded because I guess it was double daylight savings time. So a moose ran out, blinded. At first I had always heard he was in the back, in the passenger, or in the back middle. Then I had actually spoke to somebody, reached out, and they were actually at the scene, and they'd seen him. He was alive when they took him to the hospital, and he had passed away later on. He had a torn aorta, lacerated kidney, spleen, and liver. Back injuries, and significant head trauma. So he was in there, died at the scene. The Kelly twin who was driving, he was at the scene. He had passed. I'm not sure about the bear man, where he was sitting, where he was at, but the guy who I spoke to who was at the scene said that nobody went through the windshield, that it was more than likely that my dad was the passenger in the front.
How old were you at the time? What was your age?
I was 8. I was 8.
Old.
4th of July, we were out doing fireworks, and I had a cousin that was afraid of fireworks, so another cousin went in to go check on her, and there was a phone call, and so they had asked for my mom, as be there. They went out and got my mom, and I just remember my mom coming outside screaming and crying. So the guy who actually called my mom to tell her that my dad had passed was actually part of, now I don't know if it was just him or if there were others. I don't remember the name. I'm sure it was said, but he was one that actually robbed all of them. Went back to the motel room and robbed all the wrestlers.
Oh my God.
My aunt said that some other wrestlers got to him and he got his ass beat. My mom, she had always just said that they were caught, so I always assumed by the police and charges were filed, but I don't remember his name and can't find much about it. And I didn't really remember it until I saw an interview with Sabu. He had said that, and I remember that because my mom was freaking out, and I don't know how they came to know this, that they were robbed, but they went back to the motel room and they took everything on him and took everything from the motel room.
You had mentioned earlier about perhaps your father won't get put in the Hall of Fame due to the way he left and his relationship with Vince McMahon in the WWE when he left. Can you fill us in a little bit on, what you may know about, or what, after he left, why did he leave? There were rumors that Dick Murdoch had convinced him to not work with him, and there's all sorts of wild stuff out there. What do you know about the final days of Adrian Adonis working with
What
Vince
I
McMahon?
know is that he was supposed to win. He was supposed to have WrestleMania 3. They came to him and said, "Hey, Piper's retiring. Can we give this one to him? You'll have 4. We'll give you 4." And then there was supposed to be a bonus for cutting his hair. Everything was verbal. And then when it came time to collect, Vince said no. Then my dad said, "Fine, I quit." Vince says, "If that's great, you're under contract. So, and if you work, I'll sue." So for 6 months, my dad didn't work. And then it was at that time that, I remember him staying at home, and for a long time, I remember him at home. And then he left for a little bit. Then he came back, or no, he broke his leg, and he was out for a while. I remember that. He was home for a long time then.
What was his
Then
mindset when he was
left,
home for a while? You said he was home for a little while.
like a
there.
caged animal. Like I just remember he's like, let's go something. We got to go. I mean, he didn't.
Did he
He's
seem
so used to
happy?
being on the road
Did
that-
he seem happy? Or
Yeah,
was-
I mean,
Okay.
he was always, in a good mood. I always remember him being in a good mood. I don't remember him being crabby. I don't remember him being upset.
So he didn't let it spill out over into his children, basically, even though he might have been really ticked
no,
off
I don't
at what was-
remember that at all.
Okay. Interesting. Okay.
So he goes to Canada, I guess, because he's got to make some money and he's trying to get back into the business, right?
Well, he was going, from what my mom has always, said about that, is he had lost a lot of weight. He went to Japan and he was with a trainer, I want to say Tom Touchstone, he was working out with, and he was a bodybuilder. I remember him at the funeral as well, and there's a picture of him, and I remember him. My sister and I had not seen him for 2 months at the time. He had been gone for 2 months from the time he was in the wreck, but my mom drove down to LA and saw him overnight 2 weeks before he had passed. But he had lost a lot of weight. He was only going to go to Japan and wrestle a couple months out of the year. He was going to Newfoundland as a favor for one of the guys. I don't remember who. I don't remember if it was, the Bear Man. I don't remember if it was for the Kelly twins. It was just as a favor he was going there. But he was going to Japan and going to wrestle in Japan.
What was Mom's reaction when Dad started to put on the weight? I have to ask. I'm just curious. Like,
That-
what
I
are
mean,
you
it was-
doing? I can say
That I really don't, that kind of like the transition from when he went from the brown hair to the blonde. I remember the brown hair. I remember a belt. I remember all of the leather. And then all of a sudden there's Christmas bows and we're in Anaheim and Jimmy Hart's asking for lipstick. And I'm like, why does he need lipstick? And I remember, he's walking me to the bus stop and there's somebody driving by yelling, faggot and screaming at him. I'm like, what is going on?
Oh boy.
But I don't remember, I don't really remember, but the weight, my grandmother said too, before he started wrestling, he ballooned up.
Yeah.
He gains weight very easy, but could drop it, if he stuck to what he was supposed to do, he could drop it.
Yeah. Your dad
I was the same way.
Your dad was an amazing athlete because even though he did gain the weight, any real pro wrestling fan could tell you he was fantastic still athletically in that ring. So, for whatever that's
he
worth.
could, how big he was, he could move. Like, I was like, oh
Sure
my gosh,
could.
he can really.
Yep.
My
So-
aunt said when they would go out to, they'd go out drinking or whatever, that you did not, she said, people didn't mess with him. She goes, they didn't mess with him at all. She goes, it was, but my grandma from New York would always say that he liked to fight.
Did you ever want to become a wrestler? I almost know the answer to this, but anybody in the family aspired to be wrestlers after?
My son is all about it right now.
There you go.
That's what he wants to do.
How's that make you feel? Nervous?
Oh my gosh, he has the mouth. He has the mouth just like
Okay.
him watching this.
That's
Well,
good.
my sister and I have the mouth too. Very sarcastic. Very. I don't know if it's good. It gets us in trouble sometimes. Gets me in trouble with patients sometimes on the things I say to him. I'm like, oh my.
It's going to help his
But
character. If
my
if
son-
he's got the gift of gab, it's going to help his character. Go on.
He does.
Good.
He has the gift of gab, the gift of his mouth, and just smart smart ass.
Is he a big
I
kid?
mean,
Is he big?
yes,
There we
yes,
go.
he's 123 pounds. He's 5'2". He's 10. He just turned 10.
Nice.
Angie,
Nice.
He's
you're 8 years old. You find out your father's passed away. Your mother's a mess. She meets her husband or next husband. What's your reaction to that? Is it hard for you to deal with? What's going through your mind? Did you give him a hard time? Let us in a little bit and like what it's like for someone at that age.
No, he was I liked him. I mean, I liked him. She dated a little bit, and then she met him, and it was really quick. He has kids that lived with their mom, did not get along with them, still do not get along with them. At the funeral, my husband was in Oklahoma. That when he had passed, that's where we were. I was in Nevada. I was working at a clinic doing family practice, and my husband's like, "Can you not say anything to those kids? It'll be the last time you ever have to see them. Can you promise not to say anything?" And I was like, "Oh, I guess." He goes, "Now I got to talk to your daughter." But I just go, but he was. I mean, I got along with them. Got along with them well. My sister did too. I was glad that she was happy, because she wasn't. She was just not the same. But she had a lot of girlfriends. My aunt and her were very, very close. But just to see her happy, that was good. So when she married him, we had moved, but she was still close with my aunt. Of course, that's her sister's like her best friend. But she was just really happy when she saw him. And then I remember when we had the first 4th of July when she was married, she was very, crying very, because when my dad first passed, we were at the cemetery almost every day. Every 4th of July, every Father's Day, every day, on his birthday, before Christmas. And when we moved, that was really hard on her. And so when my father passed, she had bought his plot and all of that. So she had also bought her plot at the same time. So when my stepfather passed, she was a little concerned and nervous. She didn't know what she was going to do. So in California, they have marriage plots. So you can go down 12 feet, and then one casket is placed, and then the other one is placed. So I told her she was very concerned what people would think. And I said, "Why do you care what people think?" And then I told her, because of course she's crying, she's a mess. I said, "Mom, it's like you're having a threesome, both your husbands and yourself right there." She goes, "Oh my God, what's the hell's wrong with you?" I said, "Well, at least I got you to laugh."
Why do I
So
picture your father
that's
saying something like that? Oy.
Well, that's what I'm saying. My sister and I, and then of course I'm like, "Oh, that's not a good thing." But I mean, I go, you're right there. So I call her the widow recluse right now. She's not left they have a ranch in Oklahoma, and she's not left. She leaves very seldom to go do anything. So my girls are going to college back there, so they live with Grandma, and they tell me, "Well, Grandma, Grandma's not doing well today. Well, Grandma just watched TV murder mysteries today." And I said, "Tell her to get out of the house. Go take her somewhere." Well, I said, "Well, what's the widow recluse doing today?" She said, "Shut up, don't call her that." I said, "Well."
Angie, we got a fan question out there, and I think you answered it, but I'm going to ask it again anyway. Michael Allen Rubin asks, did Hulk Hogan show up at your father's funeral?
Oh.
No. And that's what my mom said. He didn't call. He didn't, and I guess they were really close friends, and I guess I really didn't know that, but listening to this podcast, it was a Japanese sports writer, and it's so odd because I told my husband, I remember this guy from Japan coming, and I said, and staying there like 3 days, and all of a sudden I was on Twitter, and I heard this podcast of him, and I saw this picture, and I said, "Oh my God, I remember that pool," and I'd never seen it before. It was me and my dad in a swimming pool, and then there was a podcast. And it was him on there, and he had said that Hogan and my dad, they were fairly young when they went back there to Japan, and they were very nice to him. And he was just coming out as a sports writer, and those guys kind of got together. And he said Hogan has a picture of my dad up in his house, like for his memory. And on the show Hogan Knows Best, there was a and I didn't really watch it. There was a guy who I guess he was heavy set, kind of like a slob, and he said that he kept him around because it reminded him of my dad, and I was like, well, if so, then maybe why didn't he reach out? My mom goes, well, my mom always said it was because he was too big of an ass kisser to Vince.
Interesting. Interesting.
So you're on a self-discovery or looking for your father. What's your favorite thing you found on the internet about your father that just thrilled you?
I'd have to say the clip of where he's in New York
Oh my God, I love
and he's
that.
like yelling at this lady to go get back in her house and to shut up. And I was like, oh, and then he's the king of the hubcap race and he does a cartwheel. And I was like, oh my gosh. And my mom goes, yes, he would do crap like that all the time. And I just go, that, and it just reminded me like, oh my, that stuff that my sister, like just random things like that. I just go, that it just kind of really shocked me because my sister and I, just say we go out and we were out drinking in Nevada. And we're walking to another bar and there's these two cops and they come because we had stole these flags and we were going to have a parade. And we asked them if they needed assistance. And I mean, we just kind of random go off the wall or we just like mess with people. If they, ask us something stupid, we just go with it and didn't really know where we got that for, just that's just how my sister and I were. My mom wasn't really like that, is not like that at all. And then to see this clip of him doing this, that is, I go, that's where it is. That's exactly where it's at. The wit, that was probably the most thrilling. And then there's been a couple of things when he was, the cockiness that, I mean, my sister and I aren't really cocky like that, but my son is very cocky like that. He is the biggest, he's the baddest, he's the best. And my husband's like, he better learn how to fight with the mouth like that because it's going to get him in trouble. I said,
Now,
yeah, I agree.
Do you catch your son surfing the net, looking at his grandfather and being like, "This is what I want to be. This is who I want to be."
Yes, and they look a lot alike too, which is very,
Nice. Nice.
very, I mean, that's crazy. And I didn't know my dad had played football. He played semi-pro football in Canada, and I didn't know that.
He's probably
I
going to
knew
be
he taught himself.
he's probably going to be a hell of a wrestler if he is studying his father, because his father was a mat technician as well as an amazing on-screen character. I hope I asked this correctly. Do you feel a responsibility to get your father into the Hall of Fame? I hope I don't corner you by asking that, but I got to tell you, growing
No,
up,
I do.
he deserves to be in. And growing up watching him, Mike and I will both, attest to that. He was one of the greats of his time.
Real quick before you answer that question, Angie, I just want to say we grew up fans in the Northeast of WWE.
Yeah.
And Adrian, your father, was with Jesse Ventura in the AWA, and then when
Yes.
he moved to the WWE, anybody that's a WWE fan, his matches with Bob Backlund are some of the greatest matches you could ever see, and we were instant
Yep.
Adrian Adonis fans,
Yep.
and they tried to recreate the East-West connection here. And again, we're trying not to be too nerdy here, but
Right.
I got to tell you, your father,
We followed him from the beginning.
pretty incredible.
Yes.
But anyway, go ahead and answer the
So
Pharaoh's
are
question.
you driven? Do you feel a responsibility to get him into the Hall of Fame?
I do because I mean, I feel that he deserves to be in there.
Oh yeah.
Listening to, a lot of things like Piper, he's like, he got me over the top. He's where I am today. WrestleMania 3, that was the biggest WrestleMania that there was. That's, I mean, how many fans were there? And just, I mean, I've heard that it was so loud you couldn't even hear, they couldn't even hear themselves think how crazy it was. And I mean, that right there, Brutus the Beefcake, what did he do before that? Him and Ventura together. I've read things on it and heard things on it where Ventura, was the charisma and Dad was the worker. Just watching him on there, him and Murdoch, he was a very good wrestler, and I think that I don't know why I don't think it was punishment, the gay gimmick. My aunt had said that he liked it, he enjoyed it because every time they booed at him, that was dollar signs for him.
He made
So
that a
she
home
said
run.
he-
He made that a home run. He was great with it.
Yeah, I had always heard this because back then, my kids don't understand this. Back then, you didn't open your mouth. You shut up when adults were talking, and you didn't interject in the conversations. If you did, you got kicked out of the room and you didn't get to hear. So I remember dad was talking about he hired or he got a telegram person to dress in a banana suit and jump on Vince McMahon's desk and sing to him for his birthday. Then I didn't know if it was that, because then I also watched him in an interview with Pat Patterson, and dad's deep throating a banana talking to Pat Patterson. I'm like, oh my God. So then I'm like, is that the banana thing that they're talking about? Like, what were they talking about?
Pat might have
So
liked
I
that, but
don't-
we won't get into that. Pat might have liked that. Go on.
Oh, he just looked away. Like he was like had to look away, and my dad's just like going to town on this banana, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So it was pretty entertaining. I was like, that's
Oh my God, I got
That's great.
So, Andrew, we're almost out of time. What kind of message do you want to send to the fans and the wrestling audience about your father?
that if you loved him or hate him, I mean, it didn't really matter. I mean, he was a very talented wrestler. He was very athletic. I believe he should be in the Hall of Fame. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. He worked hard to get where he was. Yes, he did gain a lot of weight and kind of,
Still great.
I don't know if it was a kind of a self-loathing or if it was, I mean, speaking from experience, I gained a lot of weight very quick. Don't know if it was thyroid or, honestly, don't know what it was, but he had lost a lot of weight. He was focused. He was ready to get back and start wrestling again, and it was, just too soon that he was taken. But I would love to see him in the Hall of Fame. I just don't know how. So hopefully, if somebody knows or what we need to do to get him in there, I would love to hear it.
Place a phone call to somebody who's very famous in the business but is still tight with Vince and sweet talk them. Step one.
Well, I got to tell you, as wrestling
It's worth
fans,
a shot. Come on, Mike.
In the short time that we had Adrian on this planet,
Yeah.
he made his mark, and we thank you for joining the show. And
Thank you for having me.
all
One
right,
last
and-
thing, if I can.
Yeah, absolutely, sir.
Is your son left-handed like your pop was?
No, he's not, but my oldest daughter, Adrian, is left-handed.
Okay. I was just curious as to which fist he's going to be throwing when he gets
And
into
did
the
you
ring.
just catch that? Her daughter's name is Adrian.
Wait a second. But for
Yes.
all we know, she's the next Charlotte Flair.
I love it. I love it.
Oh, she's a sassy one. That one's a mini-me.
I want to get her in the ring, too. Now look what I'm starting.
All right, Angie, thank you for joining us. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, guys.
God
Thank
bless.
you, Angie.
We'll
Thank
be
you.
back after
Bye.
this commercial break. You want to star in your own success? Call QuickCast. www.quickcast.com. 866-7-CAST-NOW. That's 866-7-CAST-NOW. QuickCast.
Start your own success.
Jimmy, I just got the best hookup on tickets.
Fill me in.
I went to www.seatslinks.com and ordered the best tickets with the best prices.
Call 718-676-0504. SeatsLink, the complete ticket experience.
Tell them Charles sent you. You need a body shop? You need engine repair? Auto Excellence, Collision Specialists, 631-261-6420. That's 631-261-6420. Auto Excellence. All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast. Monty and Farrow, seen only here at Indie Music TV. Farrow, great interview.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
Very, very charming guest. I enjoyed that thoroughly and learned quite a bit.
Yeah.
Matt,
Matt,
for me.
thoughts?
Yeah, I thought it was great.
Sometimes these, over the air broad, like it's hard to get a rhythm, right? Because
Yeah, well, they're they're somewhere else. They're not sitting right here, but it is what it is.
So, what did you get most out of the interview in your mind?
I actually, what? Coming into the interview, I wasn't sure we were going to fill in that much, but I did learn quite a bit there. I learned that Adrian was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
At home. Adrian was a lot of fun at home. That was one thing that I learned. I really do hope, though, that she reaches. How do I put this? I don't think it'll work if she wants to get her dad in. Can we talk about this for a second?
Sure.
If she wants to get her dad in, in my opinion, I don't think it would be good to reach out to people who already hate and have an issue with Vince. I think it would be a lot wiser to reach out to someone of note that has a decent relationship with Vince and maybe talking to Vince about getting Adrian in. Adrian should go in.
Here's the problem with the here's the problem.
Sometimes
with the
you gotta,
But here's the problem with the Hall of Fame.
Go on.
As these years go on,
Right.
It's not like
He should be in.
no,
Though.
but no.
What are you saying? He's
agreed. But as these years go on,
Yeah.
these icons from the past
fades.
get forgotten.
I know.
And
That's
it's like
why
they're
I'm
talking about. And
That's why I feel the urgency. I'm like, reach out to someone who can say something positive to Vince because, look, a lot of the recent ones who've gotten into the Hall of Fame, you can't still sell the marketing of putting in the adorable one with the WrestleMania 3.
I agree.
He's worth it. He still is, especially with some of the guys who've gotten into the Hall of Fame in recent years. So I would suggest reach out to someone who's still good with Vince. And then maybe...
So this goes into our next conversation.
We want him in. That's why I'm saying this with such passion. I want him in.
Before we run out of time.
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
You got Adrian Adonis, right?
Yes.
Icon.
Sure.
No doubt, right?
Absolutely.
You
Top
love this
shelf from the
wrestler, I
day.
did.
Top shelf from the
But
day.
we
On the
talked
card.
and you're right. Someone should put a petition to get him in. He deserves to be in.
Right,
But here's
right.
the problem. Today's wrestling is a problem.
Yeah.
When I turn on AEW last night,
Yeah.
you've got Orange Cassidy.
Yeah. Oh, here we go with him
Right?
again. Go on.
And he's
Can I
wrestling.
put my hands in my pockets?
He's
I'm
he's
really
wrestling
not that involved in
Cody.
this conversation.
And
Go on.
I'm being told I'm a dinosaur because I
You are not
can't stand watching
No, you're
this
not-
type of wrestling.
Who's telling
and
you
when you're
who's
coming,
telling you're a dinosaur?
just in
You're not
general,
a
you know,
di-
you
I
have
know
a-
that that's what they think. Some of these modern pro wrestling fans. I don't
Right.
agree with that crap at all. You know. And by the way, what is over? The term over. What defines the term over? I mean, it's simple. It's a simple definition, but to me, it has complex layers. Like we said earlier today when we were talking, like a guy like Santino Marella, sure they would pop for him, but was it sustainable? Was it the Macho Man pop that went on
No.
and on for
That's
years?
what I mean.
And you took the character as a legitimate heavyweight contender for the world title. Are you going to tell me out there that you take Orange Cassidy seriously to legitimately be a world heavyweight champion and sustain when he's in his 40s? He's still going to have his hands in his pockets, huh, guys? He's still going to fly through those ropes with his hands in and sustain his great heavyweight legitimacy character the way Macho Man did, the way Hulk Hogan did, the way Bruno Sammartino did. And if you're a flying type, you better be able to do it as long and as well as AJ Styles, who wrestles with his hands not in his pockets.
So you use the word over.
What
right?
is over?
But
There's
you
different
use the word. But
levels
you
of
use the word over
and different
So
sustainability depending on the wrestler.
Let's talk about the father.
Very in-depth.
Let's talk about
Sorry.
let's talk about the father who was the guest, the father of the guest who we had on, Adrian Adonis. He was in the WWE. He wrestles Backlund.
Yeah.
Was he over?
Yes.
I'm not gonna say he was over.
Well, what?
He was good.
He was a bad
He was
guy.
the bad guy.
He was over
moment,
as a bad
right?
guy.
Then you talk the industry changes. He goes to the femme character.
Right. Sure.
He's now very over, right? He's very over.
He
in
was
that.
over either way, but
But
I
once he gets
understand.
his hair cut in WrestleMania 3,
Yep.
he's not over anymore. He wasn't over anymore.
Boom.
So over is a very difficult term, right? The wrestling lifespan is probably 10 years. You know, if you get a 2-year run, you've done well. And when I mean of being major,
And by the way,
over,
he was over in front of 90,000 people, like
Yes.
his daughter brought up.
Yes.
He wasn't over in front of even 15,000. And I'm not diminishing
Right.
being able to be over in front of 15,000.
Agreed.
That's awesome.
Agreed.
You know, but I don't believe that you're going to have him in the main event of a 90,000 plus arena kind of situation. I
Thank
don't
you.
think his character
he's fun.
is over on that
He's
level.
fun for the moment,
Yes.
but he's not going to draw 90,000 people in a main event
right.
doing that shtick.
Nope.
You know.
Nope.
Someone said to me, Santino Marella was over. Yeah, he was over for a second, but that stupid sock
Right.
with the
Right.
snake sock
I'll-
was over for a short
I'll
time.
give Orange more credit than Santino. He's way over more than
All right.
Santino
Well, someone
ever
used
was,
someone
but-
used
yeah,
Mick
come on.
Foley.
Yeah.
Okay, Michael, I hear you. Over means popular. Okay,
That's true. No
But-
one's saying it
but
doesn't.
it doesn't. But
again,
but
there's
it's
different levels
sustainability of being
that
over.
over.
So someone used Mick Foley. Oh, he used Sacco. That was a gimmick, and believe me, let's not forget it.
Look.
It was the mandible claw that put people out, but he put a sock on it.
Right.
It wasn't.
It was based in a hole that's been used going
Thank
back to the
you.
bottom. What are we
Not
talking about
breaking
here?
out of a bear hug
Right.
with your hands,
in your pockets.
with arms about this big.
Well, you can go
this
there.
big. Okay.
You can say that.
Come on now, really.
Yeah.
That being said, you know. By the way, John Cena got married. Thoughts?
To who?
His longtime girlfriend.
Oh, what? I thought, wait a minute, his long-time girlfriend?
Yeah.
How long has he been broken up with the Bella babe?
Couple of years, I think.
His
right?
long-time girlfriend. Very
Well,
interesting.
congratulations, John Cena.
Yeah, way to go, bro.
On October 24th, we have in studio, that's this Saturday. So we have our regular Thursday show, will just be me and the Pharaoh. And then on October 24th, a special edition of Monty the Pharaoh this Saturday, we've got 3-time tag team champions, Demolition in studio. Demolition also were known as their counterparts as Bill Eadie was the Masked Superstar.
And leave it right there.
Well, hold on.
Don't you?
No,
Are you
Barry Dorso Smash was also Crusher Khrushchev.
Okay, fine.
Part of the Russian
I
team.
thought you were going to say the Repo Man.
No, you see, you did that.
Damn it.
And then the star of the star after that is none other than Nikita Koloff, which is huge.
Oh, my God.
And right after that, fans.
Demolition and Nikita Koloff?
Absolutely.
Oh, my God.
And then
Go
if
on.
that's not enough,
Yeah.
you get to tune in. We're having one of our live auctions, which Nikita will be selling his book.
Okay.
Autographed pictures. He will sign it
Nice.
for you. So please tune into this YouTube channel. We've got Russian flags. We've got singlets. We've got dolls.
Okay.
And we're proud to announce that also going on sale this week on Captain's Corner. Go to www.captainscorner.com. We have Randy Macho Man's ring-worn outfit, which was just sent to me. So that is also going on auction.
You should bring your golf clubs and have Dorso sign those.
That's not a bad idea.
Boy, come on now.
That's not a bad idea.
The Pharaoh's always thinking.
We want to
Kinda
welcome.
hurts.
We want to welcome our new sponsor. Let me prep myself for this, brother.
Welcome. Who are we welcoming?
Aquatilia.
Aquatilia. Nice.
They're a clothing company, and you can get using the Monty and the Pharaoh code. Use the code FALL40.
Okay.
And you can get you can get some early Christmas gifts. They've got high-level boots and clothing.
Nice.
Tell them Monty and the Pharaoh sent you. Put in Fall 40. That's FALL 40.
Nice. Thank you.
Monty the Pharaoh can be seen on the Monty the Pharaoh YouTube page, Monty the Pharaoh Facebook Live page, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Anchor, Channel 115 every Tuesday from 7 p.m. to 7:30. Early risers on Channel 115 on Saturday from 6 a.m. to 6:30.
Mic time.
And every Friday morning on Channel 20 at 2:30 in the morning.
Pharaoh time.
Once again, the first episode of Pharaoh's Corner, which is a monthly segment put on by our own Jimmy Pharaoh. Very entertaining. Catch it on our YouTube channel. When's the next video coming out, Jimmy?
Yeah, what do you think? Like somewhere around Halloween?
Yeah, I hope so.
We'll have the Halloween
do you
special?
already have the segment? What are you thinking about
Oh,
that?
I can't give that away, but I'm thinking about a few things. You're going to like it, though, I'll tell you that.
I know I will. I always like the
I
stuff
think
you do.
Lugosi might be involved,
That's
but that's
what
a
I'm
whole
talking
other
about.
story.
The best thing about Pharaoh's Corner is you don't have my fat ass into vomit. It's just
What?
Pharaoh on there.
Yeah, but come on, we bounce stuff off. Yeah, come
Pharaoh,
on
any
now.
final thoughts to the fans out there?
Well, I don't believe that my partner and I are evil.
Thank you.
First of all, I will never put keys in my mouth ever again. Thank you, Eddie Van Halen.
Yes.
And Angie was great.
She was
Thank
great.
you so much for the interview, and we loved your father. You know, Adrian Adonis, man. Talk about the beginnings for you and me.
Oh,
that
my
was
God.
the beginnings.
Oh, my God.
Adrian Adonis was right there with the Moroccos and the Valentines for us, and
I don't.
we're still mad at Vince for not pulling the East-West connection to its. They should have had the belts.
I was thinking
Let's not
about.
even get-
I was thinking about Angie. Right, she only had 8 years with her father.
Yeah.
And, again, these are
Yeah.
young years.
Yeah.
But rest assured, when she sees these videos of him as a wrestler,
So great.
he certainly was an icon in
was.
this industry. And boy, did I love him! I
Yes.
loved that guy to
We
death.
always did. He was a technician
Yes.
and an entertainer at the highest level. Put him in the Hall of Fame, Vince. Come on, man.
Angie just chimed in before we go. A kid in a class told me it was fake, and I remember getting into an argument with him and going home to tell my dad and what he said, and my dad told me it was fake.
That's so like Adrian, by the way.
Well, it is fake,
That's
Angie.
my
What'd you think?
God.
It was real?
And then he broke out the makeup. Okay, let's
That
go.
was funny.
He said, what?
That he was practicing makeup on Angie, getting ready for
I
his
can
role.
see him. Yeah. Whoa, he was so awesome, and I can see him doing that. That sounds like Adrian, one of the all-time greats. But teach your son how to throw a few lefts. You know, you got to have some of the left. See what I did already? See, I don't know how to throw a left hand.
All right, with that, we'll catch you next Thursday,
Or do
same
I?
time, same Monty and the Pharaoh channel. Once again, thank you, Angie, for joining us. It was our honor. This is Mike Monty.
This is the Pharaoh, and we'll see you again next week. Later.